All right, so first off, I'd like to go ahead and get this session started. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us here today for our webinar on Oracle BI Publisher for JD Edwards, reporting BI using the free licenses for JD Edwards. My name is Adam Krieger. I'm actually the founder of the company, but I'll be walking through today's session. And if there's any questions, feel free to go ahead and post those into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll tackle some questions at the end, as well as when we'll announce the Amazon gift card winner as well. So if the control panel is in your way, just go ahead and there should be an option there, maybe a white arrow and an orange box to minimize that, and hopefully that'll give you some more real estate on your screen. So we're going to walk through a few PowerPoint slides to lay some of the foundation, and then we'll get into the live demo, which will be the majority of our session today. So for the agenda, again, we'll start with an overview of preferred strategies, BI Publisher, then our BI Quick Launch, which is the Jumpstart we developed for JD Edwards, ERP World, and EnterpriseOne. Do the live demonstration, and we'll come back and address the gift card winner and questions. So as a company, our Preferred Strategies was founded in 2002, so we've been around for about 12 years, working with JD Edwards customers around business intelligence and reporting initiatives. We're a little different than some of the other BI and reporting companies for JDE in that our model is actually, we've chosen to use some of the market-leading software and create jump starts for that. So where we started using crystal reports and business objects, over the years we've transitioned into some Oracle offerings. Today's BI Publisher as an example, and on the Microsoft side, some free plugins from Microsoft to Excel called Power Pivot, which I'll speak briefly to that at the end. We do have a presentation on that tomorrow, which I'd highly recommend you attend as well. And then also from a real-time direct connect solutions to data warehousing, we support both approaches there, and we have a jump start for all those products with a direct connect and also a data warehouse for companies that want to go down that route. From a services perspective, we're kind of a full-service organization providing training and consulting and implementation services to get customers up and running very quickly. So of the various approaches that we just mentioned, obviously there's pros and cons to each. We're not going to get into too much detail in this session, but all three of these solutions or approaches are supported by preferred strategies. So if you want to connect BI Publisher or Power Pivot or Business Objects, Crystal directly to your JD Edwards transaction data and run it in live, so if you post a transaction in JDE and want to get an immediate response in BI Publisher, direct connect, we have a solution to tackle that. If you want to mirror the data into another repository, but still kind of a replicated data set of what's in JDE, call that an ODS or Operational Data Store, we support that transition as well. And if you want to go and restructure the data into a kind of real star schema data warehouse, we've got that built out as well. So we kind of support, again, all three of these different approaches, and depending upon what the customer's looking to achieve. So what are some of the challenges? Why are you maybe on this phone? Maybe just kind of either curious on how to leverage some of the free licensing you get from Oracle for BI Publisher, or maybe just want the Amazon gift card. I'm not sure, but regardless, JD Edwards reporting in BI it can be a struggle, and there's thousands of JDE tables, cryptic table names, F0006 for the business unit master, GBOBJ for the object account. Dates are stored in a Julian format, so converting those to a Gregorian format, it has to be done. Mounts and units stored without decimals, and those are just kind of the way the data is stored in the data model. When it comes to reporting and analysis, you want to do and create calculations that are time-based measures, month-to-date, quarter-to-date, year-to-date, actuals, budgets, extended amount, gross profit, quantity order, things like that. So you're going to want to kind of get, need the reporting tool to start building out those calculated objects, because JD Edwards doesn't deliver that information in the data set very easily for reporting and BI purposes. So, and then the other things like user-defined code, subledgers. Some of the data is stored with leading spaces. What may be a text field in one table, maybe a numeric in another, and so it's kind of getting all the data to properly relate can be an issue. So that's kind of just some of the challenges. As far as BI Publisher, there's really kind of three ways to implement BI Publisher that we're going to speak to today. Our primary element for this session is the number one here, which is the BI Publisher Interactive or Standalone. So that's in essence, we call it our BI Publisher Enterprise. So it's from Oracle. They deliver free licenses for the natural schema. So if you want to connect BI Publisher Enterprise or Interactive directly to your JD Edwards data in its natural form, you get some free licenses to do that. Once you want to get out of that natural schema of JDE, custom tables, non-JD data sources, that requires a non-restricted license. And that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, if you're done a recent upgrade or looking at doing an upgrade in the near term, one-view reporting. So from the design element, and we'll speak a little bit about the differences of the enterprise or interactive versus the one-view reporting in a couple slides here. But one-view in essence is now the ability to create some reports from a JD Edwards menu. And that uses the BI Publisher and the same design elements that we're going to be presenting today for the end users or users that are building the reports. Embedded is a third way, and that's another for companies that are using BI Publisher really to replace a forms program, delivering AP checks, purchase orders, payroll checks, things like that. So if you're using it for forms type reporting, having a JD process trigger that's referred to as an embedded. So those are kind of the three different ways to implement BI Publisher. Again, we're going to be focusing here on number one. So what are the different ways to access the interactive BI Publisher reports? So one is that there's, the BI Publisher Enterprise would be installed on a web server using, WebLogic as the web service, and you can go ahead and navigate into that portal and access the reports. You'll see that here in a minute, and you can view reports live. You can drill down. You can do all that right there over the web, kind of outside of JDE and just via the web application. You could schedule and email reports to people. You could also then, because a lot of these reports and objects can be hyperlinked, you could actually link them within the JD Edwards menus as well. So those are kind of the three ways. Here's a couple of screenshots. So within the BI Publisher Enterprise Portal or for Interactive, you can see here there'll be different folders that are set up or you set up and how you want to organize your content. You can go ahead and open up a report on the fly and it'll view it, refresh it with data right there and on demand, or you can schedule it. And schedule it would be so you can have it set up to run at once at the time when you hit the schedule, or you could say I want this to run after 8 o'clock tonight when I know some processes have been completed on the system. So that's how you can kind of access the reports. We'll just show you that in the live demo. On the scheduling, you go ahead when you schedule a report. You'll see this. You select your parameters and hit the, then hit the different layouts. So each report may have different tabs in the report. So you might have different views of the data and the data organized differently on different, almost like think of tabs in a spreadsheet. You can have different layouts of the report all within its one overall report, which is kind of like an umbrella, and then you have different views of the report within it, so almost like a report package. So you can kind of specify the different layouts to different formats. So you could say I want this first layout to run and populate as a PDF when I schedule it. I want the next one to be Excel, and the third one to be HTML or PowerPoint, something like that. So that's the the ability to change the output. On the schedule, you can choose it to run once on the fly. You can some to run hourly, daily, weekly, as you can kind of see the list here on the screen. This is one of the differentiators between this interactive BI Publisher and OneView. Currently, this interactive has a scheduling functionality where that isn't currently, to my knowledge, available with OneView yet, and don't know what the real roadmap is going to be for this specific functionality within a OneView environment. But so we'll show you that. The other way, if you wanted to, within, let's say, your JD Edwards menu structure, wanted to add some folders and reports in your menu, you could actually have those call a hyperlink back to a report. So what are the steps for BI Publisher Interactive? So first you have to establish connectivity. So you're using JDBC. And so you'll basically establish the JDBC connectivity to your JD data. It's kind of a one-time setup. It doesn't have to be done every time you build a report. Just that has to be there before you can build your first report. A data model needs to be created, and then you basically, once the data model is created, you create your report, define your different layouts of your report, and then you can go ahead and publish your report back. So these are kind of the different steps. Preferred Strategies pretty much helps with all of these in that we can help you establish your connectivity. We deliver data models already defined for JDE and some reports and some templates for that. So we kind of can jumpstart this whole process. OneView is a little different, and really when it comes to the data model, that's another key here. So the scheduling was one example of a difference between OneView and the interactive. Another is in the data model. So when you're actually using OneView reporting, you're inside of a JD Edwards menu or OneView grid if you purchase the OneView content by module, and you go ahead and just select your elements of your grid, and it'll go ahead and creates a data model for you based on what you select from that grid. So that's kind of what you see here, is that you kind of, by just hitting the plus, it's going to go ahead and create, these are my objects that I want to build my report from. Whereas within the Interactive BI Publisher, you kind of start almost from a blank canvas when you're building data models, and if you're buying ours, they're already there. But now you're, in essence, defining a connection to the data, your relationships and things like that, which we address. But one thing that the data model editor does have, which is a nice benefit, which is you don't get with the OneView, is the ability to to create calculations. So if your OneView grid doesn't have all the fields and the calculations that you need, you're kind of, what you see is what you get as your starting point, and the formula editor will kind of show it to you. As a designer, isn't extremely robust at this time. So the data model is where you're going to have to push some of that logic. So best practice is to kind of push as much back to the database as you can. Second is have the data model do the work that it needs to, and then the report authoring tool called the layout editor is really it's going to be more of a drag and drop and define the format and the layout of the report. So we'll kind of show some of the data model as well. So what is our BI Quick Launch? We've kind of jumpstart this whole process. We deliver some BI Quick Launch views that reside on the database to address a lot of the data manipulation, restructuring the data, the naming conventions, the dates, decimals, UDCs, subledgers, all of those things we talked about. And then we've got for BI Publisher some models, and then some reports and templates and samples on top of those models. And that's what we're going to be doing all of our demonstration today. We'll be leveraging our Jumpstart as we show you that. Tomorrow's session, again, as I mentioned, on Power Pivot is a free plugin for Microsoft Excel. So if you use pivot tables in Excel, highly recommend that. It does share our same infrastructure that we've implemented on top of the database. So that's what would be leveraged there on the data. And you've got the models and things on the Power Pivot side. So today's session's all around BI Publisher. Tomorrow's will be Power Pivot. Next week we're going to do business objects and data warehousing. So again, what are these views? That's where we address a lot of the data issues of JDE and the relationships, the intuitive naming, the dates, decimals, UDCs, subledgers, etc., things like that. Then we've got data models, where we've actually relayed this stuff for BI Publisher, and then the sample reports on top of that. All right, so now enough of the overview. As I did mention, as we're going through this, we will be tackling questions at the end, but feel free to post those into the Q&A panel, and we'll pull those up, like I said, at the end of the session. So from the live demonstration, we're going to start by looking at some financial reports, kind of nicely formatted reports. There's kind of two types of reports that we design, in some row-based reports. We're going to show you on the financial side, income statements and balance sheets. We'll show you some of the scheduling that we had a couple screenshots of. And then we'll show you some interactive reports where they're more kind of dashboard type reports with charts and dynamic filtering and stuff like that. I'll show you that maybe an example in sales, HR payroll, and then maybe we'll go ahead and build a new report from scratch, just choosing a different module, maybe purchasing. And we'll kind of, peel the onion a little bit on the data model and what that is, and then we'll kind of wrap up and do questions at the end. Okay, so going to switch over to another screen here. So what I'm going to do is, this is, in essence, I'm logging onto a different server here. And this is, so in essence, BI Publisher. We'll go ahead and actually we'll start. Let's take a look at one example. We'll log in essence, as a, let's say we're going to analyze and drill down, let's say, to a J.D. Edwards as an example from like a P&L. So let me go ahead and log in here. Okay. So when I log into the BI Publisher Enterprise, and I'll choose Catalog here, again, that brings over this list on the right. And you can see here how you can organize your content. So in this case, we've got, reports, data models, by the different modules. If I click down here under financials and general accounting, I can kind of see a list of reports. So if we want to start here, this income statement with drill to JDE, if I go ahead and open this, it's actually going to open this report. In this case, it's going to open up in a new window here. So this is, in essence, our BI Publisher, let's say a sample of a P&L. Notice here we've got month-to-date actuals, budgets, variance, year-to-date, or month actual budgets in prior year. Same thing with year-to-date. If we go ahead and look at, let's kind of pick something that's a good thing to drill into. So maybe under corporate administration, rent expense. So I want to see what makes up these dollars here in my P&L. Traditionally, this would be a report based off of the general ledger, or sorry, the account balance file within JDE. And we've restructured that for analysis here per se, but that's really going to be summarized data. But we want to drill down to identify the general ledger transactions that roll into this account. So if I click on rent expense, this will actually call and make a call to JDE, and it's going to fill in the applicable things that we need. So we'll go ahead and refresh that. That's actually, in essence, so how we would then drill down from BI Publisher into the JDE Edwards application using kind of the parameterized URL type functionality. So that's one example, one way to actually navigate from the BI Publisher and integrate it with the JDE. Let's go ahead and take a look. If we close out of there and close out of that, let's say we want to go in and look at looking at maybe another way to drill down within a report, but not actually go in and call an inquiry grid in JDE. So let me go ahead and log in again. So like before, we'll go ahead and navigate here to the catalog, go to general accounting, and in this case, instead of going to the drill down to JDE, we're going to go ahead and just do an income statement with drill down. So if I open up this report, and let's say that so it's actually going out there and processing the report. So now we're looking at this report. If we wanted to go in and let's take a look at maybe some different pages here. Same kind of thing. Let's just want to pick an account that I know has good drill down. So if I want to look at here at computer supplies, I've got $35,000 in budget, but let's take a look at the actual $657,000 in actuals for the year, and want to see what makes that up. In this case, rather than if I click on this, rather than drill down and pass over into a JDE menu, we're actually drilling in from one report to another and passing over variables or parameters from the initial report. So it's now did and called another GL detail report built off the general ledger that you see here. And now within this report, we can go ahead and look at the specific details of a line item here. And if we'll drill into the invoice, it'll take us from the GL, let's say, to the AP side of things. So drill into the invoice, takes us to AP. If we want to drill, here's the the check number. What was the due date? The gross amount, open amount was the discount. If there was a purchase order, maybe we could drill in from there to the purchase order side of things. So this is a way to actually allow users, and this is nice because theoretically you could have people logging in to access the reports through this other portal, drilling down through the reports, answering their own questions. So if you didn't want to have those users kind of have to navigate the JD Edwards environment and still get access to the data, this is an avenue to do so. Let's go back. So that was kind of just a couple flavors of P&L. We go back here and let's take a look at, maybe that can balance sheet, just give you another view here. So we'll take a look at the balance sheet. On the balance sheet side, we've got a two tabs here. You'll notice before we just had an example of P&L, one tab. In this case, we'll show you two different flavors of the balance sheet. The first is a summary tab, so it might be where you're maybe aggregating data at a higher level than the detail, which may go down to the specific account. So here you can see assets, current assets, and then we got to break down cash, AR, other receivables. So this is kind of summarizing data. There might be multiple accounts that make up cash, AR, other receivables, etc. So that's kind of where you can kind of get within these different tabs, different views of the data or different levels of aggregation. So that's the summary tab. If I click on the detail tab, it'll actually go ahead and process now the detail breakdown with now we're going with each of those categories down to a list of the accounts within that category. So we'll give that a minute to open up. So in this case, now within those categories, right, in cash, now we can see we've added another level here in this view where you're getting down to true account, let's say. And then you can drill in from this. So let's say we want to see what makes up, Pride Creek National Bank. Drill into that, and it's going to now do again that live call back to the GL transaction, just like we did on the other report from the P&L. Okay. So I wanted to show, if you were looking for a nice way to do interactive or nicely formatted, professionally formatted financial reports, BI Publishers definitely could be a great option for that. We want to look at the scheduling. So if we go back here to those, and so let's say I wanted to schedule this report. If I go ahead and rather than choose open, we'll go ahead and schedule. Click on the little schedule option there. This takes us to a scheduler. So first, we can go ahead and choose our different parameters. We want to select a company. And obviously, you would set these up with the parameters that make sense for the type of reports you're building. So if you wanted to be prompting for, business units and account ranges or list of accounts, or, in this case, we're prompting for the P&L by company, and then year and period, and it's then calculating what we need based on that. So that's kind of the first tab, is where you adjust your parameters. Then the output, so we can go in here and call this, layout 1. And I want, if there's multiple tabs in this report, they'd be listed here under layouts. And then I want this to be a PDF. Maybe want to add that same, layout 2. And I want to put this to be, instead to maybe Excel. So we can go ahead and if you were going to email this to somebody and specify a destination, you can go ahead and add the destination, configure that, and then you'd be able to email. So that's the output tab. And then if we go to the schedule tab, if we just schedule this once right now and hit the submit button here on the right, it would then run it right now. If we go ahead and want to run something on a daily, specify the days, or a weekly basis, I could specify which days of the week we want. So it's a way to kind of get something to recur and set up an ongoing schedule for that. That's the scheduling. We'll go ahead and run this once right now. No service specified for notification. Let's go ahead and hit submit. And we're going to give this a name. So this would be like income statement. And now you'll say it's submitting the job. It comes back and says the job is submitted successfully. Choose OK. And if I go ahead and return here, and now instead of going to click on schedule jobs, we go to job history and open this up, and it's going to go out there and say, okay, what jobs are actually currently processed or recently have processed. So we'll go ahead and let that find it. That job is running. If we go ahead and hit the refresh, it should say when it's completed, it'll say success. Should have been done there, okay. So now you can see once the job's completed, it'll say success. We click on that job, and now we can actually see the different layouts that have been identified. The first one was the PDF, so we go ahead and open that up. Right, it opens that report up in a PDF. And if we go back and look at the second one, in this case, go ahead and I'll just save the file and we'll open it here. Just to kind of show you another flavor of the report, maybe in an Excel format. Okay. All right, so here's kind of that same report inside of a, and theoretically, your link should still work from here as well if you were to go ahead and click on, the URLs. So let me go ahead and close out of that. So that was kind of the scheduling feature. So far we've kind of looked at opening up a P&L, drilling down to JDE, opening up a P&L, drilling down to another report, to the GL transaction, to the AP invoice and beyond, and then showing the same thing with the balance sheet, done some rescheduling. So now let's take a look at another type of reports that you can use and build with BI Publisher. So if I go here and click within the sales and the sales analysis, I'll go ahead and open this up in edit mode and edit this here. So this is in essence a more of a dashboard type look and feel of a report. So I've got this sales and interactive analysis. I'll go ahead and open this up. So in this case, we've got a few different, across the top here, we call lists, and these are, in essence, as I click on these, it'll dynamically filter the data below. We'll show you that. Got a few charts here, sales by customer, top 10, by product family, gross profit by month, so we can kind of see a trend chart, and then maybe gross profit by sold to type. Maybe we've got breakdown here in our pivot table by region, and then that'll drill down. We'll kind of walk through this. So let's say we were looking at just central. So I go ahead and click on central region, then it would actually filter down all of the data below to filter just for central, and I can see my top 10 customers for just central. If I look at just one rep within central, maybe Jason Lee, now I can actually see the specific sales reps activity within the central region as well. And if we want to filter down to, let's say, 1 year, all right, we can go ahead and do that, and now we're looking at just 1 year's worth of data. You can also, not only just filter from up here, but if we want to filter down by just clicking in one of the charts, it'll create a filter on that, and then the remaining charts will update based on that filter that was just created by that click. Okay, so that's in a nutshell kind of the process here. Let me go ahead and check. You also select multiple values. Let's say I want central, east and northeast, but I don't want to include west for some reason. Right, everything will update to combine those three. Down here we've got a chart. We can drill into the chart, or sorry, into the pivot table. In this case, we're going from like region to product group to subgroup, maybe down to the product or whatever you want to define. Excuse me. So that was, in essence, we call this more of an interactive report. Hold on for 1 second. That was another view of, rather than like a P&L or a balance sheet, it's a kind of nicely professionally formatted report, row-based report. You have to define your different roll-ups, where something like this is more kind of that dashboard look and feel. So let's take a look at another couple examples here. So let's go ahead, rather than looking at sales, we'll come back to the catalog. And let's take a look at maybe HR payroll and maybe an employee analysis report. So you'll see some similarities here. This is in essence based on one of our templates that we deliver, which gives you kind of lists across the top, a pie chart, a bar chart, and then a kind of a pivot table below that. And we'll build one from scratch here. You can kind of drag and drop. You'll also notice here some of the fields on the left. So these are in essence the fields that have been exposed within the data model for this report. And we'll show you when we get into the data model overview how we can go ahead and expose additional fields from that using our Jumpstart. So if we go ahead and let's take a look at this first. All right, we're looking at this report, and this is more of analyzing average salaries by employees. So we've got age ranges, male, female, maybe ethnic code, company, hour, salary type employees. So if I want to look at just one specific age group, let's say 40 to 49, by clicking on that, it'll give me the breakdown of my, by ethnic code, top 10 customers, our highest salaries for employees for that specific age group, and you can kind of see those listed there. So let's say, I wanted to look at, just salaried employees. I could do that. And now I'm looking at just truly the average salary for the salaried employees. Let's say we want to make a change. Like, let's say I wanted this chart to be not ethnic code, but by company. So if I go ahead and close out of this, and I can go ahead and click on this pie chart, you'll notice a couple things. One is I've got my total salary and I've got my ethnic code right here. So if we wanted to look at this by company instead, I can go over here to my object, choose company home description, drag that on top of my ethnic code, and now I'm going to see this chart just demonstrating a breakdown by company instead. Now I probably want to change the title, so if I go to click on that while that chart's selected, so click properties and go to chart title, now I can go in here and change ethnic code and call this company. Okay. So now my chart's going to be updated for that. We'll go here, and now we've got, in essence, this chart to be by company. Okay. Let's go back. One other way to, let's say, had I not wanted to make that change on that same report, but make a new layout that actually has that, you could have gone here and done save as instead of a save, and that would give this a new title. So this would be maybe, employee layout 2. And so now if we were to go back, we'd actually see this would now be a separate tab inside of that. So that's kind of how you start building out your different views of your data that way. So let's go ahead and, rather than take a report that's already created, let's maybe build a report, a new ad hoc report from scratch. So we've kind of looked at financials, looked at some sales, some HR payroll. Maybe we'll do something in purchasing for this example. So if I go ahead and do new and choose report from the drop-down, use existing data model. So now it's going to go ahead and say, okay, select a data model. So I'll go to my data models, BA Quick Launch data models, purchasing. I'll say I want to use this purchasing order detailed data model to start from. So I'll choose next. Now I have a guide, which is kind of just basically allow me to select which objects I want, dump it into a table, and that's what I get. But in this case, I want to use the report editor. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose finish. And now it's asking me, where do you want to save this report? So I'll go down here to my reports, to procurement, and we'll call this, my purchase order ad hoc report. Okay. Oh, purchase, the other one was close to that. So let's go ahead and just save. Now the first thing, that's going to say, okay, you saved the report. Choose a template, which would be kind of an already defined layout per se. And preferred strategy, we again have built some of these that we deliver as well. So I'll take this preferred strategies with charts, click on that. So this is where we've already got, the header section. Obviously, would this be updated with your logo, the list across the top, the pie chart, the bar chart, and then the pivot table on the bottom. So let's go ahead and start by going here, call this purchase order analysis, open amount. And units. Okay, so now we can just drag in. So let's say I want my list to be address, name, supplier. I'll drag that on top of this list. Maybe I want this to be my company description, top of there. Maybe we want to go down and grab our item and account. So if there's an item, it'll display the item and description. Otherwise, it'll show the object account and description. That was dynamically built into the data model. Maybe look at our last status as an example. And let's take a look at, maybe we want to look at maybe order type or something. Okay, so we kind of create our list, now our pie chart. So let's say we want to break down and get analysis of our open amounts by supplier. So if I go up here to my supplier name and drop that into my series and go down here to my amount open, and I can drop that into my drop value here. Okay, then like before, we can go in and change our chart title. And this would be, in essence, supplier and go over here to our bar chart. In this case, let's go ahead and look at our units open. In this case, let's look at units open by item, or item and an account. So if I'll go ahead and drag that down here to my drop label. Okay, and now this case, there's a lot of items potentially here. Let's look at maybe just our top 10 items based on the quantity. So while that chart's selected, we can go up here to the filter icon, choose filter, and it'll actually open up this filter wizard. So we can go down here and say I want units open, and I want this to be in top, and choose 10. Okay. So now I've got a top 10 chart. We can go, like I said, if we wanted to relabel that chart to say, top 10, let's might as well do it right. And so this would be top 10 items. Okay. And now we can go ahead to our pivot table. So in this case, or a crosstab, so to speak. Let's say we want to do business unit and description first. And then within that, maybe we want to go down to the supplier second. And then within that, let's go down to the item. And let's say, we want the order number as well. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at our amount open. So I can drop that over to my amounts. Once you bring in an amount field, you have the ability to go up here and do some data formatting. Maybe want to format that as currency. And let's go ahead and grab our units open as well. And maybe we want to format that, in this case, maybe we want that without decimals. Okay. So in essence, what we've done, create a new report, gave it a new title, dropped in our list, pie chart, bar chart, pivot table. And now, before I can view this report, I have to save this layout. So we'll call this, PO layout 1. Give it whatever name you want. Let's go ahead and then we'll view this. And now it's going to kind of show you now interactively how you can then analyze the report. So again, if we wanted to look at maybe just everything at a status of print purchase orders, select the status. The charts will update based on that. You can click through just like we did before. So that's how we build an ad hoc report. So that's what we were going to show before we kind of open up questions at the end, was looking at the data model. So let's go ahead and pull up the most recent release of the BIP Publisher. And okay. So if we go here and let's take a look at an example of maybe like that data model that we were just looking at. So a couple things you'll notice when you're in the data model. So you have the ability to create multiple data sets. Now, this actually allows you to blend data from multiple modules of J.D. Edwards, which is something that would be more difficult, something like OneView, because the data model gives you that flexibility to create different connections to, again, different sets of data and then relate those together. So that way you could actually, within one BIP Publisher report, you can go against, sales, inventory, and procurement data, or financial and HR data, things like that. The ability to create dynamic lists, parameter values, which are then, driving those the report. So if I go ahead and click on this tab, if I go ahead and choose the edit icon, this actually what happens is when you create a connection and then grab some content. Now this is going against one of our views that we deliver as part of the process. But we'll go ahead, if I choose Query Builder, it'll let us go ahead and open this up. Okay, and so now, give it a second here. So we've got a view now. We're already within our view. We're relating together the purchase order detail with the header, with the address book, with the item master. the different dates to get all that. So we're actually that's doing all that. So we're actually not going in and have to do all those relationships here. Now we could still go in and do more relationships here if we needed to, but that's where our views are kind of doing a lot of that heavy lifting behind the scenes. So you see here we've got all the different fields available. The ones with checked have already been selected for this model. I'm still thinking here for a second. Okay, so now if we go ahead and just start scrolling down, if we wanted to add some specific fields like maybe GL offset, right, third item number, things like that, we can go ahead and check those new fields, and those will become now available. So again, our views expose a lot more than what we maybe already have built in the data models, because you don't want to, pull back too much data. You want to kind of keep those data models refined to just what you need for the reports that they're supporting, rather than just bringing back the whole world. So that's kind of finding that balance, and we can help you with that. So, I selected a couple new objects. Click on the conditions. This is where the fields are there. Anything here in the condition where you can add the filters. So, we're grouping the data. We're doing some aggregation, so we're not, getting for each of the dimension objects that we've selected here in our data model, we're getting a unique row for each of those. And we just added a couple items here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this, group by on those. And then if we go down here to SQL, it'll actually show us the statement that's going to process against the database. Okay, so what's happening is there's this statement's going to go ahead and hit the JD data set and come back. If we go ahead and look at the results, and I can put in here this is actually a sample of the data just to show, okay, yes, this is going to pull back some data. And when we hit save here, it's going to update this statement, choose OK. So now our model will have those new fields available in it. You'll notice some of these things like the functions, business unit description. So we go in and we provide some, that's where we go in and do some concatenations of fields like the values and the descriptions. That's where we go in and build those time-based measures like month-to-date, quarter-to-date, year-to-date, actuals and budgets. So if we're looking at like the P&L model here, that's what we'd see a lot of those time-based calculations as well. So that's something that, within the BI Publisher, you do have the ability to, add elements by expression, which gives you the ability to go in and do some if-then-else logic, create some, concatenation strings, substrings, so you can extract out. So this is where you have the ability to kind of create some calculated objects, which is, part of the data model editor here, which you don't have that flexibility per se inside of, the one view, kind of out of the gate there. So you'll notice some of these fields look like they're still kind of short names. If I go click on the Structure tab, what best practice within BI Publisher is to kind of give these are, when you build the BI Publisher models, you'll see here in a minute, it's going to generate an XML statement. So you want to keep some of the naming conventions fairly short there to kind of keep that XML data set fairly small, whereas the names on the right will be what get exposed to the users when they build their reports. So here's a table view. We'll come back to that in a second. So if I look at the data, so you have to kind of, in essence, generate up a sampling of data. So if I wanted to go here and say I want to look at, let's say, 100 rows of data, it'll go out there based on the statement, generate the sample data set. And you'll notice here it's this XML, here's my data, and I can look at this in tree view or table view, and to say, okay, here's the sampling data based on what you've requested, save as sample data. The base of what that does, once you save the sample data, that's the sampling of data that you use as you build your reports. Whenever you publish a report back and then open it up to view it in a live fashion or schedule it, it's refreshing through the data model back to the data set. So when you build reports, you're off kind of the sampling of data, but as you go ahead and running reports in a live fashion, it's actually going back and refreshing whatever's in the system. Okay, so that's kind of in a nutshell the data model. You go ahead and save this, and then you could actually go in and create your report as well.